Before we start this video, thank you to the members of both of the channels. In this video, Bachmann addresses the remake of Thomas and Percy, possibly remaking other core characters such as James, Gordon, or Henry, and then of course they address Diesel 10 and Pinchy.
And that was before even the CGI era of the series had been launched. So there were not a lot of references to go off of, and of course, times have moved on. The fidelity and the detail that's possible on models has moved on since then, and it was time to move on with these locomotives. So Thomas and Percy are being retooled with the appropriate level of detail and appearance as they to bring them up to the same level that you're accustomed to with our most recent locomotive announcements in the Thomas range.
Yeah, exactly, and it's they'll also be very similar in appearance to the large scale and end scale versions of Thomas and Percy as well. Of course, with the CGI era faces, we are starting completely from scratch. However, so we're looking to make this the definitive Thomas and Percy in HO scale.
Yes, and they will retain features that you've come to know and love. Like they will continue to have the moving eye mechanism, and they will continue to have the same functionality that they have now. So it's a but one thing that they will have that will be new that we know a lot of people have also been asking for is they will have front couplers.
Yes, they will. So now they can properly push the troublesome trucks around.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think now can be a good time to note that we know that the Thomas and Friends is of course getting the newly reimagined reboot series coming up, and we which we're of course aware of. We had discussions with Mattel, and we got the okay to keep things on the CGI era because that's going to be the most consistent with everything else we've done in HO scale, especially in recent years.
Yeah, and it's not impossible that we might visit the new era of Thomas and Friends at some point in the future. But for now, we're sticking with the consistency in the line, like Tyler said, and we're excited to bring Thomas and Percy up to the level of detail that they deserve.
Absolutely. And I will say, while it's being asked right now, we can't make any promises yet. There are a couple other characters that may be candidates for redesigns, but it'll take some time, to have the capacity. But we have had some discussions about that.
We have, yeah.
So yes, Thomas and Percy are gaining front couplers so they can shunt and pull trucks backwards, and so they're also gaining apparently brand new tooling completely. The one guy, I think his name is Tyler, said that they are completely starting from scratch on Thomas and Percy, which is conflicting from other reports we heard from the one train show of that the current Bachmann guy was at, and he said they were going to be reusing the chassis for Thomas and Percy. So a bit conflicting there, but if we take Tyler's word, they are completely starting from scratch on Thomas and Percy. Brand new tooling. They want this to be the definitive Thomas and Percy for the HO scale line with CGI faces. Then they also talked about how they have already had talks about if things go well and if they get the capacity for it, they will remake other core characters. That leaving James, Gordon, Henry, and Toby. And I don't think they would remake anybody else. Pretty sure it would just be those four characters. Possibly Duck. I doubt it. I think it's going to be James first, and then Gordon and Henry, if that. But James for sure. Because James, along with Thomas and Percy, were the worst models on the market, and they were the original ones at the line back in 2002. So now we get into Diesel 10 and Pinchy.
And we, of course, do have an all-new locomotive announcement as well. Another one that's been very highly requested over the years, and maybe came a little bit out of left field because I think people had maybe even kind of given up that this could be a possibility. But we are introducing Diesel 10. Diesel 10, known, of course, for his signature claw and or arm and claw, which I believe is called PINCHY.
That I was going to say, you got it. Its name is Pinchy. You got to give it respect.
And yeah, so he'll be a pretty exciting new announcement to the range. Of course, we've had a lot of questions already about how is he going to look, how is he going to function. Obviously, it's no secret that all of our Thompson Friends products are designed to be appropriate for 8+, so they do have to pass certain manufacturing restrictions to allow them to be able to pass 8+. What that means for Pinchy is we can't go all out on the full, on every small detail that you'd like to potentially like to see on it, but we are going to do our best to make it as functional as possible. What we're aiming for is to have a opposable arm that can move up and down and hopefully pivot 360 degrees as well. But it's still in the development phase, and we're seeing what's possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll all be subject to making sure it can make it through those consumer product safety tests. But I think I have seen that there have been some comments in the perception that we may have said at one point that the claw will not be able to open or close. And I'm just going to say that, just to dispel that, that hasn't been a final decision yet.
No, it's been. I think where that may have come from is we had people at some of the shows, or some of the shows at the one show that we've talked about this so far, asking about it, and my response was we can't guarantee that the claw will open or close, just because we're not far enough along in development for that.
So first off, this basically disproves everything a lot of fans were saying. They were saying Diesel 10 would never be made. It's impossible for him to be made. He's never going to be made because he has to comply with lots of railroad rules, like fitting through tunnels or certain destinations, height-wise, something loading gauge garbage. None of that was even mentioned from Bachmann. None of that. So I don't know where fans got that garbage from. It seems as though the only thing Bachmann is focusing on with Diesel 10 rules-wise is safety rules because they're intended for, what did he say, years 8 and older for kids? 8 years and older, they're just making sure Pinchy complies with safety rules as in, choking hazards, smaller pieces, depending on what they use for Pinchy. That's basically all they're focusing on or all they mentioned. So everything else that fans were saying is a bunch of garbage. So moving on from that, it's basically just safety rules that Bachmann is concerned about with Pinchy. But anyways, now we're moving on to how they're actually doing Pinchy. Now, it was previously reported as, I believe his name, I forgot his name, but he said at the train show, he answered that Diesel 10's claw might not open and close. He cannot guarantee it. And so that's how everyone kind of got the idea that Pinchy would not open and close. They're hoping he can move 360 degrees. They're hoping he can move up and down. They're hoping he can do as much as we want him to do, but they're not guaranteeing anything. And they also said they're not really even in the design phase of Diesel 10 and Pinchy. They're not far along at all whatsoever. It basically seems like the only thing they have done with Diesel 10 is that he's announced. And they're just still on the drawing board, still thinking about how they could possibly do the claw. So I guess it's not for sure that Pinchy won't open and close, but he's not guaranteeing it. They still have to map it out, still have to figure out how Diesel 10 is going to be done. But that is very interesting. Hopefully Diesel 10's claw is actually everything we want it to be because the price is going to be insane. He's going to cost well over $250, I bet, on some websites. So that's going to be insane to see. So Pinchy and Diesel 10 should reflect that price range. But guys, let me know your thoughts down below, and we'll see you in the next one.